Dad, you don't really fit the Christmas vibe anymore. Ever had your own child say something like that right at your own dinner table in the house you built for them? I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I just listened. And that night I made a choice they'd never see coming. Before we jump in, I want to know where in the world are you right now and what time are you listening? Let me know in the comments. It was the Christmas that didn't feel like Christmas anymore. The tree stood in the same corner it always had, the ornaments still wrapped in the faded gold ribbons my wife had picked years ago. But the house felt smaller, somehow crowded, yet empty. Anna came in last, her kids running ahead, her husband talking loudly about traffic. She looked tired, sharp around the eyes. When she hugged me, her arms barely touched my back. Dinner went on the way family dinners sometimes do when the love has thinned, but duty still remains. The others asked about workhouses, schools. No one asked about me. At one point, I mentioned her mother. I said something like, "Your mom would have loved to see you all together again." The table went quiet for a second. Then forks scraped plates, glasses clinked. Anna forced a laugh. "Let's not get all sentimental tonight, Dad. It's Christmas." Later, when I brought out dessert, she said it calmly, almost kindly. "Dad, you don't really fit the Christmas vibe anymore. Maybe you should take a trip somewhere, get some rest." Just like that. Her voice was light casual, but it landed in me like a stone breaking glass. I nodded, maybe even smiled. Hard to recall. What stayed was the weight in my chest, the faint taste of something bitter. They went on about mortgage rates and ski trips. The grandkids argued over the red plate. Voices rose, familiar yet distant. When the laughter grew loud, I excused myself and stepped out back. Wind tugged at the cedar branches, the ground soft beneath my shoes. Years seemed to breathe through the trees. Stood where the kitchen light faded, watching them through the glass shadows, moving in warm gold. For years believed that warmth belonged to me too. Thought silence was the price of peace. Only then did it strike silence hadn't protected anything. It had erased me piece by piece until no one remembered I could say no. Stayed there until my hands went numb. When I came back in, they were cleaning up. Anna packed leftovers. Her husband scrolled through his phone. The boys were half asleep on the couch. Said goodnight, went to my room, and closed the door softly. On the dresser sat an old photo, my wife holding baby Anna, both smiling as if life had been easy. Ran a thumb along the cold glass. Sat for a while, shoes still on coat, half buttoned, listening to their muffled voices through the wall. Laughter again, faint, far away. No one knocked. Memories came, uninvited nights, fixing fences, paying tuition, grading papers long after midnight. All the ways I'd tried to keep things whole. How quietly they'd slipped into the past. By midnight the house had gone still. Went for a glass of water. Candles flickered low wax, spilling in uneven trails. One had already gone out. Leaning on the counter, stared at the empty chairs. Once believed patience was the highest form of love, that kindness alone could heal what time had worn thin. That night proved otherwise. Silence doesn't heal. It only teaches people how to forget you. Washed the glass, left it upside down to dry, turned off the lights. The floor creaked beneath my steps, the house breathing in slow rhythm. Grabbed my coat again. Didn't know where to go, only that air felt necessary. The street lay still, my footsteps the only sound. At the edge of the yard, turned toward the house, neat, anonymous, no longer mine in any real way. The sting of it came clean like truth finding daylight. When I returned, the lights were off. Everyone asleep. Closed my eyes and let the quiet stay, not the kind that erases, but one that listens. Somewhere in that hush, something began to take shape. Didn't yet know what it meant, only that it felt like a beginning overdue. The kids didn't call. They rarely did once the holidays passed. A neighbor phoned instead, laughing as he mentioned Anna had been asking about local property values. Said she thought I might downsize soon. His tone was light. Sat in the study half reading the paper while rain streaked the glass. My wife's chair still faced mine. Sometimes I'd turn to speak, forgetting she wasn't there. The phone buzzed Anna's message. "Hey, Dad, I've been looking into some things that might make life easier for you. We'll talk soon." Words polite but careful, the kind used when a decision's already made. Stared at them until the screen dimmed. Next morning went to the corner cafe. Thomas was already there, waving me over. Same mix of sarcasm and weary wisdom he'd always carried. Told him about the message, the tone in it. He stirred his coffee slowly. You ever notice how people think kindness means permission? What's that supposed to mean? When you never say no, he said, they start believing you can't. Watched condensation trail down the glass divider beside us. Across the street, a young father held a red umbrella over his family. Thomas sighed. You've given them everything. That's fine. Just don't let them write your last chapter. His words followed me home. Anna's car waited in the driveway, her arms folded, papers tucked under one elbow. Dad, I've been talking to a family friend, she said before I could speak. He's a real estate consultant. Houses like yours, big lots, older charm sell fast these days. Looked past her toward the cedar trees, dripping steady. Why would I sell, Anna? You're alone here. The upkeep's a lot. You could live somewhere simpler. Closer to us. Warmth in her tone, but under it, impatience. Like she was repeating a line rehearsed too many times. Said, your mother and I built this place. Every post, every shelf. I'm not moving. Her smile faltered. Just think about it, okay? That night, I went through a box from the attic, old receipts, mortgage papers, my wife's notes. She'd kept everything neat, as if knowing I'd be the one left to sort it all out. Among them lay a letter from her last Christmas. If someday the house feels too big, fill it with kindness, not regret. I folded it carefully. Her handwriting carried the same calm rhythm her voice once had. The next day, I stopped by the school to pick up mail. Old habits die slowly. A few colleagues asked if I missed teaching. Told them I missed the noise, not the meetings, which got a laugh. Back home, a message blinked on the answering machine. Michael's voice this time. Hey, Dad. Anna said you've been thinking about the property. We just want to make sure it's handled right. Call me when you can. The phrase handled right landed wrong. Less concern, more control. That evening I cooked soup and bread. Thought about all those years teaching students that dignity meant doing right when no one was watching. But what if everyone was and didn't care? Then the phone rang again. Thomas. You all right? Think so. You think so, they're talking like I'm already gone. He paused. Then maybe remind them you're not. Sleep refused to come. I walked barefoot across the house, each room echoing faintly the scent of baked apples, storms, laughter, the hum of a voice long gone. At the grocery store the following day, Anna spotted me first. Dad, I was going to call you tonight. I know. We stood near the apples, too perfect to be real. Heard you talk to Michael, she said. We just want to help. I'm sure. Something in my tone unsettled her. She picked up a bag of lemons, then set it back. You're not angry, are you? I shook my head. No. I just finally understand how things are. Her mouth opened, then closed again. Well, okay. When the phone rang that evening, I let it go. Later that week, I returned home early. As the back door swung open, voices drifted from the kitchen, familiar, low, hurried. Anna's tone carried that sharp edge she used whenever she thought she was being practical. He's not using the space anyway, she was saying. My son replied, quieter. You think he'll agree? He doesn't have to. Once the papers are ready, it'll make sense to him. My hand froze on the doorknob. Should have walked in but didn't. Stood there listening to my children talk about me as though I were already gone. Anna's voice softened. It's not like we're doing anything wrong. The house is just sitting there. It could help all of us. That word, us, hung strangely. It didn't include me. Their laughter came quiet, almost polite. Turned away the sound scraping against something that had waited too long. Upstairs, the room smelled faintly of dust and paper. Sat at my desk, hands unsteady, and pulled open a drawer. An old notebook my wife's once used for shopping lists rested on top. Across the cover, her handwriting curved gently. Don't forget the small things. Tore out a blank page, wrote numbers, mortgage, taxes, accounts. The ink blurred as something in me gave way. Not anger, just the quiet collapse that follows too much patience. When the voices stopped, the front door clicked shut. Downstairs, coffee cups cluttered the table. On one napkin, Anna had scribbled a phone number with agent beside it. Folded it, slipped it into my pocket without knowing why. Dinner went untouched that night. The walls seemed thinner than ever. Every sound, pipes, fridge, floorboards felt like the house trying to say something I couldn't hear. Around midnight, I found the box of letters from her chemo days. One read, "If the kids ever forget, remind them who built this home, not with money, but with days." The page trembled between my fingers. Whispered her name once, then set it back. Morning brought nothing new. Walked to the park, wet leaves clinging to my shoes. Dogs barked, owners called, life moved on easily as if nothing had changed. Sat on the bench by the pond, the one we used to share on Sundays. Could almost hear her telling me not to take everything so personally. Hard not to when your own blood starts planning the story without you. Back home, sunlight broke through briefly, small mercy in an endless gray week. A voicemail blinked on the machine. Anna again. "Dad, I talked with an agent today. Nothing's final, don't worry. We just want to have options. Love you." That careful cheer she used to hide guilt. Deleted it without replaying. Later, I found the napkin again on the counter. The ink had bled, soft blue stains spreading. Thought about calling the number just to hear the stranger's voice who'd been promised my house. Instead, tore it into pieces and dropped them into the trash. Thomas stopped by in the evening. "You've got that look," he said. "What look? The one from when the principal cut your budget back in '98. That I'm going to fix this but nobody needs to know look." I almost smiled. "You remember too much?" "That's my curse," he said, lowering into the armchair. "You think she knows what she's doing to you, she thinks she's helping. Or that's what she tells herself." He nodded. "Good intentions can still rot a man if you let them." We talked about small things after that. When he left, he clapped my shoulder. "Don't disappear in your own house, Eddie." Thought of calling Anna, telling her how it felt to hear her voice, plotting like a stranger's. I knew it wouldn't change anything. Words between us had thinned until they carried no weight. The next day, I canceled my cable-cleared shelves, boxed up old records. Not to move, just to breathe. Each thing I packed carried its own sound, its own rhythm of letting go. Anna arrived early, a folder tucked under her arm, and that polite determination she wore whenever something was about to be taken for my own good. She didn't sit before she started speaking. "I just had a few papers printed," she said, placing them on the kitchen table. "It's only a property evaluation, nothing binding. I thought it'd help when the time comes. When the time comes for what I asked." She hesitated, then smiled the kind of smile people wear when they believe they're being reasonable. "Just planning ahead. You don't want to leave things messy later." The words "leave things" hung heavy. Her folder sat on the table, neat labeled efficient. "Anna, I said you don't need to plan my ending for me. Her jaw tightened. That's not what this is. But it was. Every tone, every look said so. She'd already imagined the sale the furniture divided the life I built, priced, and listed. Told her I needed some air. She gathered the papers quickly, maybe thinking I'd read them later. Just think about it, she murmured. We're only trying to help. Nodded, though it wasn't agreement. When she left, a ring of condensation marked the table where her folder had been. Poured a glass of water and watched it fade. Called Thomas after lunch. You sound like a man standing at the edge of something, he said. Maybe I am. Then step carefully. We met at the cafe where the barista knew our names but never our orders. Thomas listened as I told him about the papers, then leaned back. People think love means giving, he said. Sometimes it means not giving what shouldn't be taken. Asked what he meant. He smiled. You'll see. I didn't tell anyone. Drove downtown to a brick law office near the library, K. Whitman and Associates. Told the receptionist I didn't have an appointment. She asked me to wait. When Ms. Whitman called me, and her manner was calm, professional. I'd like to make a donation, I said. You mean in your will, no? Now. She leaned forward slightly. Tell me more. Explained about the house, how it wasn't just wood and nails, but years' memory labor. How I wanted it to shelter those who needed it, more than my children needed comfort. She didn't look surprised, only nodded and began writing. Drove home with the windows cracked. The same streets looked lighter, as if the weight of pretending had finally lifted. Thomas dropped by, handed him tea and told him what I'd done. He gave a low whistle. That's bold, Eddie. Maybe just overdue. He chuckled. Quiet men surprise everyone when they stop being quiet. We talked about small things, the weather is dog, the new cafe. Every so often he glanced over as if weighing something unsaid. Finally, are you sure you're ready for what comes next? I think I am. Or I'm tired of not being. After he left, the moon hung faint behind mist. Anna hadn't come by. Maybe she thought space would help, or maybe she was already planning her next move. Either way, it no longer mattered. Turned off the lamp, past the family photos on the wall, smiles frozen mid-laughter, unaware of how fragile life becomes. Something about that stillness felt like the pause before a storm. I didn't know what kind it would be, only that it was close. The phone buzzed once. Dad, I'm sorry if I upset you earlier. I just want what's best for everyone. Stared at the screen. My thumb hovered, then dropped. No reply. The envelope arrived 2 days later, thick, heavy official. It sat on the counter while I made coffee, found a dozen reasons not to open it. The steady rain outside helped me delay. When the envelope was finally opened, each line was read twice. It wasn't just paperwork, it was a decision made real. The house, the land, everything tied to my name would soon belong to Shelter House, a modest nonprofit downtown that offered beds to those with nowhere to go. The lawyer's note read, "We can finalize as early as next week. Congratulations on doing something meaningful." Meaningful. The word sat oddly. This wasn't about virtue. It was about ending the confusion between guilt and love. Called Thomas that afternoon. He arrived damp from drizzle, 2 coffees in hand. So, he said, is this where I talk you out of something or into it neither? Just stay a while. His eyes moved across the room, pausing at the framed photos. You sure you're ready for what comes after? Maybe the only thing I wasn't ready for was honesty. He exhaled slowly. Fair enough. I used to think aging meant forgiveness. Now I think it just means stopping the explanations. The clock filled the pause between us. Later at my desk, I wrote to the lawyer confirming the donation. My hands were steady. For years, every choice had been about others' comfort. This one was mine alone. That night, Anna called. Almost didn't answer. "Dad," she began, "I've been thinking about what I said. Maybe I pushed too hard." Her tone was careful. Behind her, a TV murmured children's laughter faint in the distance. "I just worry," she said. "You've been alone a lot since Mom passed. Maybe that's why you're so attached to the house." Let her speak. She believed her own kindness. When she paused, I said, "Anna, I'm not attached to the house. I'm attached to what it used to mean, and that's gone." A sigh. "You're not making sense, maybe not to you, but I finally make sense to myself." She said she'd call again soon. We hung up. The phone lay face down on the table, silent. The next morning I drove into the city. Parked near Shelter House, a brick building with a small sign, "Hope Lives Here." The place felt imperfect but sincere. When the director arrived, she already knew who I was. "We're honored, Mr. Hayes," she said. "This will change lives. It's not charity," I told her. "It's a correction." She nodded, as if understanding something that didn't need to be said. On the way home, I didn't turn on the radio. Wipers moved in a steady rhythm, while the city faded behind. For once, memory didn't feel heavy. In the mailbox waited a postcard from Michael, a beach photo, a short note. "Hope you're taking it easy, old man." A faint smile came and went. Maybe that was his version of reaching out. Placed it beside the legal papers. Tomorrow I'd send everything back to the lawyer. Tonight, quiet was enough. Thomas called near dinner. "You go through with it almost, sending it tomorrow." He chuckled. "You sound like a man who finally exhaled." Something like that. He talked about skipping dinner with his daughter. They start arguing about politics the second I sit down. Don't miss that noise anymore. Tend to agree. He laughed softly. "You agree too easily, Eddie." After we hung up, warmed a can of soup. The smell of tomatoes filled the kitchen. Sat down, glanced toward the empty chair across the table, the one that used to be hers. No ache this time, only calm. She'd have approved. She always believed in letting things find their right place. The days that followed settled into uneasy calm, the kind that hums beneath the surface, waiting. Routine carried on morning walks, tea the newspaper. Everything felt practiced, like living in a borrowed space. The lawyer called once to confirm Friday's meeting. Her voice was brisk kind. She said she admired my choice, nearly laughed at that people admire what they never have to endure. That afternoon, I began to clean. Opened closets, sorted drawers, filled trash bags with things long untouched. Each object carried its own echo, an old tie, a faded birthday card, a half-empty bottle of her perfume. Uncapped it briefly, then set it back. Thomas dropped by without warning. He had a way of knowing when silence had lasted too long. "You've been quiet," he said, hanging his coat. "I've been busy." He grinned. "You mean brooding." We sat for a while, drinking tea that had already gone lukewarm. He told me about his daughter's dog, about the argument she'd had with her ex-husband, about things that filled time, but didn't matter much. Then he went still for a moment. "You're sure about this, right?" "Yes," I said. He nodded. "Then make sure you enjoy it too. Don't let them take the peace out of what you've done." I asked what that meant. "It means," he said, "don't sit here waiting for their reaction. Live before they hand you guilt wrapped in concern." After Thomas left the house, grew quieter. Washed the mugs, then noticed an envelope jutting from the mail pile. Michael again, no postcard this time, just photos of his boys at a soccer game and a note. "You should visit soon. Dad, the boys ask about you." Smiled faintly. I would visit one day, just not yet. Not before this was done. Took the usual walk around the block, same houses, same leaning fence I'd meant to fix for years. Mrs. Larson waved from her porch. "Morning, Ed. You're up early. Couldn't sleep." She nodded. "You and me both." Back home, a voicemail waited. Anna's voice strained and unsure. "Dad, we need to talk before you do anything permanent. Please call me." I deleted it without replaying. The day moved slowly. Packed 2 suitcases, clothes, a few books, and the photo frame from my nightstand. On the back, my wife's handwriting read, "Be kind but not invisible." Slipped it between sweaters and zipped the bag. A missed call blinked on the screen, an unfamiliar number. Called back. The shelter house coordinator answered, cheerful and quick. "Mr. Hayes, the paperwork's been pre-approved. We're honored to receive your home. Glad it'll be put to good use." "Oh, it will," she said. "Families are waiting for a place like yours. You're giving them more than a roof, you're giving them a chance." Her words lingered long after we hung up. I walked through the rooms, brushing the walls and door frames. Not a farewell yet, just a way to remember how the place breathed. Sat down in my old chair and let my eyes close. Another buzz from the phone. Another message from Anna. I didn't check it. The hum of the refrigerator filled the silence, the wind tracing faint movements along the roof. Must have dozed off because when I opened my eyes, the room had dimmed. The phone screen glowed faintly across the table. Turned it face down again. The stack of documents waited beside me, signatures, transfer date confirmation letter. Everything ready but the final delivery in 2 days. Anna arrived without warning. I was halfway through breakfast when the doorbell rang. Her face looked drawn, the set of her mouth tight, like she'd practiced every word on the drive over. "Dad, we need to talk," she said. I pushed the chair back, let her stand in the middle of the kitchen. Her coat was still damp. "I heard from Michael," she started. "He said you're donating the house." I didn't deny it. "That's right." Her eyebrows knit together. "You can't be serious." "I'm serious." Her voice rose a little. "Why would you do that?" "This house, our family. It's all tied to this place. You're just giving it away." I set my coffee down. "It's not a family if the only thing keeping it together is a deed." She let out a short, disbelieving laugh. "That's not fair, Dad. We've been trying to help you. You're not thinking straight." I've never thought clearer. She took a deep breath, her eyes moving around the room like she was searching for backup. "Do you know what people will think? They'll say you've lost it, that we let you do something reckless. I'm not doing it for them." Her jaw tightened. "Then for who? For strangers." "For myself," I said. The silence that followed was sharp. She looked like she wanted to shout, but something in my tone stopped her. "You always do this," she said finally. "You hide behind words that sound wise, so no one can argue with you. But this is cruelty, dressed up as principle." I didn't respond. Arguing would only drag us both through the same mud. She leaned on the counter. "If Mom were here, she'd never let you." That one landed deep. For a moment, my throat tightened. "If your mother were here," I said quietly, "you wouldn't be talking to me like this." Her expression faltered. Something flickered across her face. Shame maybe, or exhaustion, but it vanished as quickly as it came. "You're going to regret this," she said. "I already regret more than you know," I answered. The clock ticked between us. She reached for her phone. "I'll call the lawyer. I'll stop it." "You can try," I said. "But the papers are signed." She froze. Her hand dropped to her side. "You've already done it." "Yes." Her breath caught like she'd been slapped. "How could you?" "I had to," I said. "Before you turned this house into something it was never meant to be." She looked away, blinking fast, and then she left. The door shut hard behind her. When the sound faded, I sat down again. My hands shook a little as I lifted the coffee cup. It had gone cold. I drank anyway. I didn't feel triumph. I didn't feel relief either. Just an odd quiet, as if the world had stopped asking for my approval. At the staircase, the old family photo still hung, Anna 10, Michael 7, their mother between them smiling, certain, and bright. I almost took it down, then didn't. The memory wasn't the wound. What came after was. When night broke. The phone buzzed again. A message, Dad, please. Let's talk before you do something you can't undo. I watched the words fade, then slipped the phone into a drawer. The storm kept at it, relentless but clean. Drops slid down the glass, chasing one another into the dark. Morning carried a dense stillness. The mail truck's engine cut through the quiet. Brewed coffee, I sat at the table, letting the house remind me what silence costs. The phone rang twice before breakfast cooled. Neighbors, maybe. Ignored both. Then a sharp, impatient knock at the door, one I knew by rhythm. Anna. When I opened the door, she stepped in without a word, holding a printed document. "You've made a mistake," she said. "It's done," I replied. She laid the paper on the table, flattening it with her hand. "Dad, there's still time to reverse this. The transfer isn't final until the board approves it. You can stop it." "I don't want to." Her eyes searched my face as if trying to find the man she thought she understood. "You think this is noble?" she said softly. "But it's not. It's cruel. You're punishing us." I took a slow breath. "If I wanted to punish you, Anna, I would have left you nothing but guilt." She flinched at that. "So, what is this then? It's the truth. I built this house with love. Now it will finally serve love again, even if not the way you imagined." Her voice cracked. "You're giving our childhood away." "No," I said. "You already did when you started counting it in dollars." She looked down, hands gripping the edge of the table until her knuckles whitened. "Do you even care how this makes us look? People have already seen who we are," I said quietly. The words landed like stones between us. She stayed there a while, breathing unevenly. When she finally spoke again, her tone was lower, brittle. "You've chosen strangers over your own children. Don't expect us to forgive that." "I'm not asking for forgiveness." She stared at me for a long moment, then gathered the papers, tore one in half, and dropped the pieces on the floor. "I hope you know what you've done." "I do," I said, though it came out barely more than a whisper. She left before I could say another word. The sound of her car starting echoed through the empty street. I bent down, picked up the torn paper, and placed it in the trash. My hands were steady. After she was gone, I went to the porch. The sky had cleared, washed pale by the storm. Across the road, Mrs. Larson waved, her expression curious. The answering machine blinked red. I pressed play out of habit. "Mr. Hayes, this is Carol from Shelter House," a cheerful voice said. "Just wanted to let you know everything's official. The board approved it this morning. Congratulations, and thank you again for your generosity." The message ended with a short beep. For a long while, I just stood there. It was done, truly done. No more papers to sign, no conditions left to meet. Thomas stopped by. He didn't even knock, just walked in the way old friends do. He saw my face and said, "So it's final." "It is," he nodded slowly. "And how does it feel?" "Like standing after a long illness," I said. "Weak but free." He smiled faintly. "That's a good kind of tired." We sat by the window, each lost in thought. He spoke first. "You know, most people would have done it out of spite. You did it out of clarity. That's rare." "I don't know if it's clarity," I said. "Maybe it's just the point where exhaustion turns into peace." He chuckled under his breath. "Whatever it is, I hope it lasts." After he left, I found myself drifting from room to room again. Ended up in the study where my wife's books still lined the shelves. I pulled one out at random, a poetry collection she loved, and found a note tucked inside, written in her familiar looping script. "We never really own anything, we just care for it for a while." I smiled, a slow ache spreading through my chest. She always had a way of reaching me, even now. Halfway through the meal, the phone buzzed again, another message. I ignored it, but a few seconds later it rang once more. Reluctantly, I picked up. It was Michael this time. "Dad, what's going on? Anna's losing it. She says you've given the house away." "I did," I said. "Why would you do something like that? We could have figured something out. I tried figuring things out for years, I replied. It never made anyone happy. He sighed heavily. You know she's hurting, right? I know, I said. But she'll have to face what she's built, not what I've undone. There was a long pause on the other end. Finally, he said, You sound different. I am. He didn't know how to answer that, so he just said, Take care of yourself, and hung up. I put the phone down, finished the rest of my dinner, and rinsed the plate under warm water. The faucet hissed softly, steady, and constant. Sat there a while longer, reading lines I'd already memorized years ago. The house stayed quiet for days. Calls faded, messages slowed to nothing. Stopped checking voicemail altogether. The silence no longer pressed it, moved with its own rhythm steady, as breathing after fever. While sorting through boxes in the study, found a photo of Anna in college, smiling paintbrush in hand hair tied back loosely. Remembered visiting her dorm that first year, how proud she'd been, how she'd laughed when I called her my little dreamer. Somewhere between then and now, she'd buried that side of herself. Maybe I helped her bury it. Set the photo on the desk. Couldn't throw it away, but couldn't frame it either. The next morning, the phone rang again. Expected another wrong number, but the voice froze me. Dad. Her tone was small, stripped of its sharpness. I'm here. A pause stretched between us. I shouldn't have said what I said, she whispered. I didn't understand. I know. Michael says you sounded calm. He thinks you're doing the right thing, smiled faintly. That's rare for him. She gave a quiet laugh. Yeah. Are you angry at me? No. Anger doesn't last long in quiet houses. Silence again, gentler this time. I saw the article, she said. People are calling you generous. Mom would be proud. That one caught in my throat. She'd want peace more than praise. I think so too, she said softly. I just wish I'd understood that sooner. Thought she'd hang up, then let the space settle. Instead, I'm bringing the kids next week, if that's okay. It's more than okay. When the line ended, I exhaled. It wasn't forgiveness, not quite, but something near it. Something that felt like recognition. Days drifted easily after that. Slept better, walked longer. People at the cafe nodded. Some thanked me after reading the article. Odd being noticed for something done out of solitude. Thomas called one evening. You're turning into a local saint, he joked. Hardly. Good. Saints don't get invited to dinner. He offered roast chicken and cheap wine that doesn't taste cheap. Promised I'd come, though crowd still felt like shoes half a size too small. Later, I wandered through the house. The creaks sounded less haunted, more like wood remembering itself. Sat at my wife's piano, untuned keys, uneven, and played a few chords. The lawyer called. Everything's finalized, she said. Shelter House will take possession next month. Thank you for making it simple. It wasn't simple, she replied. People rarely sign away their stories. You did it with grace. When the call ended, I sat at the table, tracing the worn marks on its surface, scratches from years of meals, arguments, quiet evenings. Soon it would belong to others. The thought didn't sting. It settled like an ache that had learned to rest. That afternoon, I walked to the community garden Thomas had mentioned. Volunteers were planting herbs. A woman recognized me and asked if I'd join. Said yes. Kneeling in the dirt, feeling soil between my hands, realized how long it had been since I worked without a plan. The phone buzzed a picture from Anna. My grandkid's hair, messy and grinning, held a sign. See you soon, Grandpa. Throat tightened. Typed back. Can't wait to see you too. The evening settled softly. I cooked a small meal, ate without hurry. The house no longer felt like a wait or a shrine, just a place I'd lived, learned, and now prepared to leave. They came on a Sunday. I was trimming the hedges when Anna's car slowed at the driveway, Michael's truck just behind. No one calls before confrontations, they arrive with them. Anna stepped out first, sunglasses masking her face. Michael followed, slower, hands deep in his pockets, eyes already tired. "We need to talk," she said. I wiped my hands on a rag and nodded towards the porch. "Then talk." They followed me up the steps, tension thick enough to touch. I sat in the old chair while they stood still, deciding whether to start with anger or reason. Anna chose anger. "You blindsided us," she said. "You humiliated this family." I let her words hang. "By giving a roof to people who need it. By making us look greedy," she snapped. "You think you're teaching us a lesson, but all you've done is destroy trust." Michael shifted uncomfortably beside her. "Dad, she doesn't mean." "Yes, I do," Anna cut in. "You talk about love, about values, but what about loyalty? You gave away our home like it was nothing." I leaned back slightly. "It was never your home to give away, Anna." Her voice wavered. "Mom would have hated this. Your mother would have hated what we've become," I said quietly. "And I'm tired of watching it happen." Michael rubbed his forehead, sighing. "This isn't helping anyone. Anna, maybe we should—" "No," she said. "He needs to hear this." She turned back to me, eyes sharp. "You don't get to pretend you're the victim. You pushed us away long before we stopped coming around. You built this wall of silence, and now you're hiding behind it like it's a virtue." The words stung because there was truth buried in them. I stayed silent for a moment, feeling the weight of years she didn't even realize she was describing. Then I said, "Maybe." But silence was all I had left that wasn't twisted by disappointment. Michael's shoulders slumped. "Dad, what do you want from us?" "I don't want anything." "Then why do this?" he asked. "Because it was the only way to end the pretending," I said. "You all talk about family as if it's a brand we can polish. I remember when it meant staying, when things got hard. I stopped recognizing that in any of you, or in myself." Anna crossed her arms, but the defiance faltered. "You're saying you gave up on us." "I'm saying I gave up waiting for something that wasn't coming back." The words seemed to take the air out of her. She sat down slowly on the porch step, staring at the floorboards. Michael finally spoke, his tone quieter. "It's done then. There's no going back." I shook my head. "It's done." He nodded once, then looked at his sister. "Let's go." She didn't move at once. For a second, she looked like the girl who used to fall asleep beside her mother after painting too long. Then she turned and walked to the car without another word. Michael lingered. "I don't agree with her," he said. "But I don't understand you either. Don't expect you to." He nodded slow and left. When their cars disappeared around the corner, quiet returned, deeper, heavier, but not cruel. Sat there, hands folded, feeling how peace can ache before it settles. Later I made tea. Movements steady, unhurried. The kettle's low whistle filled the kitchen. The family photo still hung by the stairs. For years I'd wondered when those faces had stopped belonging to a family. Now they looked like what they were, people trying, failing, still living. The evening came quiet. Sat on the porch, air cool and faintly cedar sweet. Down the street a couple walked their dog, laughing at something small. Their sound faded, leaving only the hum of dusk settling over the block. Leaning back, I thought about calling Thomas, maybe to tell him how it went. The urge passed. Some moments don't need witnesses. I noticed the envelope on the table by the door, the confirmation from Shelter House. Opened it again. "Your property has been successfully transferred to Shelter House Community Trust." Hands steady, folded it back into the envelope. Nothing left but waiting for what would follow. Days blurred quietly, morning coffee. The mail truck's rumble, neighbors greeting me with new politeness. The stillness after Anna and Michael's visit no longer felt like peace. It pulsed a faint ache that came and went. By Thursday, the first article appeared online: "Retired teacher donates family home to help the homeless." The photo wasn't mine, just a polished stock porch. Didn't care much, though the comments stung, some calling it noble, others pitying a lonely man surrendering what he'd earned. Thomas arrived with 2 paper cups of coffee and a folded newspaper. "You made the front page," he said, setting it on the table. I smiled weakly. "So I've noticed." He studied me for a moment. "You don't look happy." "I didn't do it for applause. Then why do you look like you lost a fight?" Didn't answer. The truth was simpler, messier. I wasn't mourning the house or even the family. I thought I'd lost only the ordinariness of how it all ended. After years of silence, the break hadn't been loud. It had just happened. Thomas stayed until dusk talking about small things, his knee, his daughter's job, a coffee shop that overcharged for muffins. Before leaving, he said quietly, "Don't let the quiet swallow you, Ed. Sleep wouldn't come." Rain began again. I made tea, walked through the house. It felt smaller, as if the walls had drawn closer now that the house knew it was leaving me too. In the study, the donation letter still lay where I'd left it. No need to reread. I knew every word. Scrolled through old photos instead, birthdays, vacations, that blurry July barbecue, my wife, laughing, the kids chasing each other. Before distance, before disappointment settled in like dust. A message broke the stillness. "Anna," I saw the article. "Everyone keeps asking about you." I don't know what to say anymore. Typed a reply, deleted it, set the phone aside. Morning came gray. At the market, the cashier grinned when he read my name. "You're that guy from the news, right? My mom volunteers at Shelter House. They're already renovating. First family moves in next month." For the first time in days, warmth stirred. "That's good," I said. Walking home past a couple arguing on the sidewalk, voices sharp but familiar, echoes of old versions of myself. Back home, the answering machine blinked. Pressed play. Michael's voice: "Steady now, Dad. Maybe you're right. Maybe we were trying to hold on to something already gone. I just hope you're okay." "No goodbye, just static." Called him back. "I heard your message." He hesitated. "Wasn't sure I should call." "I'm glad you did." "So what happens now?" "Maybe nothing," I said. "Maybe that's fine." He laughed softly. "You always made nothing sound peaceful. Maybe it is." We spoke of small things, work, kids, weather. When the call ended, no closure, only a thin thread reconnecting us. That night I sat on the porch. The ground still glistened. A figure crossed the yard, "Anna." "Couldn't sleep," she said. "Me neither." She sat on the step below mine. The silence between us had softened, needing no explanation. "I saw the photos," she murmured. "They've painted the rooms. Looks nice. I'm glad. Told the boys what you did. They said it was kinda badass. Smiled." That's one way to put it. We both laughed quietly enough not to disturb the past. "Can I come in?" I nodded. She moved through the rooms, slowly, eyes tracing the empty shelves, the packed boxes. "Strange," she said. "Still feels like home." "That's what homes do," I told her. "They remember us longer than we remember them." No answer, just a nod. She poured herself milk from the fridge, the same small motion filling the house more than any apology could. We sat at the table without speeches or explanations, only the sound of cups and breath. At the door, she paused. "You should visit soon." "I will." After she left, 2 cups remained, one empty, one half full. The room balanced itself. Cleaned up slowly, not from age, but care. The chair legs scraped soft against the floor. A letter lay beside the newspaper from Shelter House. Tore it open, renovations nearly done, a small gathering for donors in 2 weeks. Smiled not for recognition, but for the thought of noise returning to those rooms. The day passed quietly. Folded laundry, cleaned, sorted boxes. Each object demanded a decision: keep, give, or discard. No sadness left in the choosing, only clarity. Found an old key tied with red string, one of my wife's habits. She'd color-code everything so I wouldn't forget. The sight pulled a slow, easy smile, slipped it into my pocket without thinking. I walked down to the post office to send a letter to Michael, just a short note saying I'd be visiting soon. On the way back, I passed the park where families gathered on weekends. Stopped for a moment, not out of nostalgia, but to listen. There was something grounding about their laughter, untouched by guilt or inheritance. When I got home, Thomas was sitting on the porch steps, tapping his cane lightly against the wood. "You're hard to find these days," he said. "I've been doing a lot of nothing," I replied. "That's harder than it looks." He followed me inside, glancing around the half-empty rooms. "You're really winding it down, huh? Just clearing space." He nodded slowly. "You know, I drove past Shelter House this morning. They've got workers painting the walls. Looks brighter already." "Good," I said. He gave me a long look. "You don't regret it." "Not anymore." He smiled faintly. "Then you've done it right." We sat in the living room with coffee. Thomas talked about his granddaughter's wedding and how time kept slipping faster. Then he fell quiet. "I envy you a little, Ed," he said. "You made peace before the world decided for you." Didn't know what to answer, so I nodded. Watched him walk down the street, steady, slower than before. Evening settled softly. Made soup the way my wife used to on cold days, thick, simple, comforting. Ate standing by the window lights flickering in the neighboring houses. When the dishes were done, drying my hands on the towel felt almost like prayer proof that endings are made of small, ordinary gestures. The phone rang once. A woman from Shelter House. "Mr. Hayes just confirming your attendance at the opening. I'll be there." She mentioned the first family moving in, a mother, 2 kids, and her father. "They're grateful," she said. After hanging up, I stood still for a moment, thinking about that 3 generations sharing one roof, something I hadn't kept together myself. Peace came quietly, like a circle closing. Past midnight rose again for water. The house smelled faintly of soap and wood. I opened the front door a crack. The night drifted in with the scent of wet earth and distant I woke before sunrise on the morning of the Shelter House opening. The city still half asleep. The bus came late as usual. Everything smaller now, as if the world had learned to move without me. Downtown, the Shelter House stood bright with new paint and flower pots on the steps. It looked nothing like my home anymore, which felt right. The hall buzzed with people, volunteers, donors, a few reporters gripping notebooks like credentials. The woman from the phone call found me near the door. "Mr. Hayes, I'm so glad you came." She guided me through the crowd, her tone brisk and polished. I nodded when needed. One of the board members gave a speech, Second Chance's Hope Community. The words blurred, but children's laughter from the back caught my ear. A boy chased his sister between the chairs, sneakers squeaking. Their mother, thin, tired, but smiling, called after them, apologizing as she passed. Our eyes met briefly before she turned back to her kids. When the speeches ended, people wandered the hall, admiring the rooms and bright paint. I walked alone through the corridors. Fresh wood and detergent lingered in the air. Along the walls, framed photos, families, volunteers, the porch ribboned for the opening. In one of the bedrooms, sunlight fell across the bedspread. Toys were already scattered on the floor. It was strange seeing life return to a space that used to hold my own silence. I ran a hand along the doorframe and whispered, "You're in good hands now." When I stepped outside for air, Thomas was waiting by the steps. "I figured you'd show up," he said, grinning. "I almost didn't. But you did. That's what counts." He looked around. "Not bad, huh? Better than I imagined." We stood there in the soft drizzle that had started to fall. People moved in and out of the building, voices, overlapping laughter breaking through the gray. For the first time in a long while, I didn't feel like an observer. The woman from Shelter House came over again, her smile warm. "The family wanted to meet you, Mr. Hayes, if that's all right." I hesitated, then nodded. She led me back inside to where the young mother stood with her children. She introduced herself as Laura. Her handshake was firm, her gratitude genuine but not rehearsed. "My father and I are moving in today," she said. "We can't thank you enough." Her father, a man close to my age, stepped forward. "You did something rare, sir," he said. "You turned something personal into something lasting." I didn't know what to say, so I just smiled and replied, "Take good care of it. The house knows how to hold people." They laughed softly, and the boy reached for my hand, curious and unafraid. I bent down, shook his small fingers, and told him the backyard had the best spot for catching ladybugs after the rain. His eyes lit up, and he ran off to find it. When the noise grew louder, I slipped away quietly. I didn't want a crowd or a photo or another round of thank yous. Thomas caught up with me, near the corner. "Leaving already?" he asked. "Yeah, they don't need me in there anymore." He nodded. "You did what you came to do." We walked together toward the bus stop. He didn't say much else, and neither did I. When the bus arrived, I turned to him. "You coming?" "Nah," he said. "I'll stay a bit longer. Someone needs to enjoy the free sandwiches." Laughed quietly and stepped aboard. The ride home felt lighter this time. The shelter house blurred behind me, color and motion fading into distance no longer mine to keep. The house lightened daily. Boxes disappeared, gave the bookshelf to Mrs. Larson for her grandson's school books. The rest furniture tools, even my wife's piano, went to charity. I expected it to hurt. It didn't. Letting go had become easier than holding on. Thomas called. "You can't live on toast and tea forever. Seems to have worked so far." He laughed. "That's not living, Ed. That's surviving politely. Met him at a diner off Burnside." The waitress greeted him by name proof he'd been practicing charm for free refills. We talked about everything except the house baseball, the mayoral race, his stubborn lawnmower. "You seem lighter," he said. "Maybe I am." He grinned. "About time you stopped carrying everyone else." Thomas clapped my shoulder. "You know what's next. Not in a hurry to name it. Good. Let life come to you for once." Back home, I walked the block. Cherry buds had started to break small green promises of another season. A few houses down, Anna's car was parked at the curb. She stood in the yard waving to Mrs. Larson. When she saw me, she smiled, hesitant, but true. "Thought I'd drop by," she said. "Didn't want to surprise you again. I'm glad you did." She handed me a paper bag. The boys baked cookies. Well, mostly I did, but they stirred. I chuckled. That counts. We went inside and she wandered through what was left of the house, touching the walls, the counters, the corners of rooms that had held years of noise. "It's strange," she said. "It feels smaller now. Things usually do when we stop defending them." She leaned against the doorway, eyes soft. "You know I was angry for so long. Not about the house, about the idea that you didn't need us anymore." "I never stopped needing you," I said. "I just stopped needing to prove it." Her throat tightened, but she smiled. "You always talk like that, half teacher, half poet. Bad habit." We sat at the table sharing cookies edges burned the way her mother's used to make. For a moment, years folded in on themselves, and laughter seemed to drift back through the room. Next morning, I visited Shelter House again. Curtains were up now, toys scattered across the yard, bikes leaning by the fence. The boy I'd met before waved. His mother stepped out, surprise and warmth crossing her face. "Mr. Hayes, you didn't have to come. Just wanted to see how it's settling. It's more than a house," she said. "My kids sleep through the night now. That's new for us." Words felt small beside that truth. As I turned to go, she called, "Visit anytime." I promised, though we both knew I wouldn't. That was the point. On the bus home, I watched people board and drift away, students, workers, an old couple holding hands. Life moving in fragments, ordinary and miraculous all at once. Back home, Michael called. "Family dinner next weekend," he said. "Anna's bringing dessert. I'll be there." Good. It's been too long. When the call ended, the house filled itself with quiet, not hollow anymore, just textured alive. The new apartment was small, easy to live in. 2 rooms, a modest kitchen, a balcony over a park lined with maples. Each morning I'd sit with coffee watching dogs tug their owners' kids racing for school, an old man feeding birds from a paper bag. I didn't know anyone, and that suited me. No weight in the walls, no ghosts in the corners. Moving in took little effort, a few boxes, clothes, books, the framed photo of my wife. Set it on a shelf, not shrine, just something steady to rest my eyes on. The rest stayed open. Owning a little felt good. Days slipped into a quiet rhythm. I volunteered at the community library a few mornings a week, shelving books, chatting with strangers by the history shelf. Routine offered shape, not demand. On Fridays, I'd walk to the farmer's market, buy bread and fruit, and talk with Irene the honey seller. Every week she asked if I'd tried the wildflower blend. Every week I said, not yet. One afternoon, a young man struggled under a tower of books. I helped him, and conversation followed. Daniel, college student foster kid living in the unit below mine. He joked he couldn't imagine a family dinner without someone yelling. Something in him reminded me of who I'd been quietly searching for belonging. Thomas visited. "This suits you," he said. "It's enough," I replied. He brought a bottle of wine, though neither of us drank much anymore. We sat on the balcony watching the last of the daylight fade behind the park. "You ever think about buying another house?" he asked. I shook my head. "Houses take too much explaining. I'm fine with borrowed space now." He laughed. "You always had a way of saying things that sound simple but aren't. Age does that to a man," I said. Weeks turned into months, and the days blended in the best way possible. Sometimes Anna called, sometimes Michael. We spoke lightly about their kids, their work, small updates that didn't reopen old wounds. One Sunday they invited me over for dinner. I went more curious than nervous. When I arrived, the boys ran up to hug me, their hands sticky from frosting. Anna was cooking, and Michael was setting the table. It felt strange, but not unwelcome. There was no ceremony, no talk about forgiveness or the past, just a meal that smelled like something familiar. During dessert, Michael raised a glass and said quietly, "To second chances." I smiled, to better beginnings. Later, as I left, Anna walked me to the car. She hugged me for the first time in years. "You seem happy," she said. "I think I am," I told her. The drive home was slow. I turned off the radio halfway through and let the quiet settle in again. When I reached my apartment, Daniel was sitting on the stairs with a notebook. "Hey," he said, grinning. "I'm working on a short story. Want to read the first page?" "Sure," I said, sitting beside him. He handed it over, his handwriting looping and uneven. The story began with a man who'd lost everything he thought he needed, only to realize he'd never really owned it to begin with. I looked up at him, smiling faintly. "That's a good start." He laughed. "You think?" "I do. Just don't rush the ending." He nodded, folding the page back into his notebook. "You're like a quiet therapist, you know that?" "I prefer neighbor," I said. We sat there for a while, not talking much. The hallway light buzzed faintly above us, and somewhere in the building a baby cried. Ordinary sounds, ordinary life. And for once, that was enough.